Because I do what I want. Because I do what I want. Because I don't know you, and I don't care. Because I don't know you, and I don't care.
Hey, what's wrong, man?
It just sucked. Because I don't know you, and I don't care.
Maybe say your joke again and we can all remember to laugh.
So in this final episode before the fight, we're going to look at the evidence. Is Jake Paul a psychopath? Look at factual evidence that Jake Paul may indeed also be a sociopath. And we're going to look for that evidential link, that correlation, that these traits, and there is enough evidence out there to prove that these traits exist within Jake Paul, could be a direct contributing factor that impact on the result this coming weekend between Jake Paul and Ben Askren.
Because I don't know you, and I don't care.
But why these traits, if utilised correctly, could actually be Jake Paul's biggest asset. But if Ben Askren manages to turn them against Jake Paul, it could prove his biggest weakness. So if you want some inside knowledge on how the fight could turn out this weekend, or just you're after increasing your psychological potential so you can use it against others, then keep watching because this video is definitely for you. So the fight is less than 7 days. Ho-ho! Yeah, whether we like it or not, this is going to be one of the biggest fights of 2021. Let me know below who you think is going to win. Have you got the conviction? Put your name on the dotted line. Who is going to win and how? But I've done a couple of videos now and they've done quite well, and I'm getting a lot of questions about, okay, Believer in Bruce, let's go for a little bit more in-depth look into Jake Paul. Let's be fair and balanced. Let's bring that stuff under the surface so we can truly understand what goes on inside Jake Paul's head, to the point where we may know at the end of this video more than actually Jake Paul knows about himself. It's all about looking at the multiple, and I say this, multiple personalities that exist within Jake Paul. Remember, if you're interested in performance psychology, body language, anything to do with the head and heart, give this channel a little bit of love, subscribe below. We're nearly at the 200,000 mark. 200,000, it would be fantastic if I could reach there. So if you're interested in the topics that I talk about, subscribe below, give us a thumbs up, and also let me know your comments below about the stuff that I'm talking about, and also any future videos you would like me to develop as well. Now I'm going to specifically talk about two areas, two labels, two titles, two things, all right, two things that I keep getting asked about Jake Paul. Is he a psychopath and is he a sociopath? Actually, is there a potential here in this unique case that one individual has a combination of two within inside of them? And it's important to note, first of all, well, what do we mean by a psychopath? What do we mean about a sociopath? And also, what are the outputs that could actually have a direct impact on whether Jake Paul wins this fight or loses this fight? Whether, Ben Askren manages to destroy him, dominate him, or he actually capitulates to Jake Paul because of these exacting traits. So first of all, with a psychopath and a sociopath, it's important to note that actually these aren't diagnoses, if you will. It's not like a label. Antisocial behaviour tends to be something that people focus more on, but it's not something, that is a thing. It tends to be a number of behaviours. A number of behaviours that are combined together that you'll either call a psychopath or a sociopath. Nature or nurture tends to be the sort of fork in the road. Psychopaths, again, I'm just keeping this really, really basic for you, all right? Psychopaths tend to have zero emotion. They may pretend to have emotion, okay? They may pretend to have emotion. But that's generally the biggest differentiator here, the psychopath and the sociopath. There's a lot of actual traits that cross-combine against both fields, if you will, okay? But it is the lack of emotion within the psychopath. The sociopath is very similar. This is why they say, is a psychopath born, is a sociopath developed? Nurture or nature, the environmental factors. So some of the traits common to psychopaths: compulsive lying, manipulative, no remorse or guilt, little emotional reaction, cruel with no empathy, take advantage of others, and don't accept responsibility. All right, just hold that thought there. Do you see any of those in Jake Paul? And then we've got the sociopath here, okay? The sociopath. Make it clear they do not care how others feel. Behave in hot-headed and impulsive ways. Prone to fits of anger and rage. Recognise what they are doing but rationalise their behaviour. Now, there's an important one. Okay, so what I'd like to do there is I'm going to show you the first example, what I would like to... Remember, Jake Paul is on the internet, okay? I'm not teaching you to suck eggs here. Alright, I'm not teaching you to suck eggs. So what I'm trying to get there is a load of data. And there is a load of data that we can quickly form an emotional baseline of Jake Paul. The first evidential bit of data that I would like to present to you, please, is that when Jake Paul invited Joe Weller across to spar with him, right? So Joe and Theo started, if you will, the YouTube boxing scene. I'm not sure if Joe was in America, he went across to do this, but hey, you know, he ended up having a spar in Jake Paul's back garden, or at least that's what it looks like. And the very specific bit I want to zone in on here is what Jake Paul does when he doesn't have to do, when he drops Joe with the body shot, when he hits Joe with that left hand. Okay, and also there's two things. One, notice where Jake is when Joe drops. Two, notice what Jake does to Joe whilst Joe is on the floor. This is where we look at those lack of empathy examples, where we look at the, okay, I can see this starting to come through. Again, remember, we can't lie here. Biology doesn't lie. If Jake hadn't done this, I would not be able to show you this. So the first part is when Jake drops Joe. You'll see that Jake is actually, you know, a little bit away from Joe. And then when Joe goes down to the ground, what's common and average, and again, we've got to take it across the sport to be fair and balanced, is when someone goes down to the ground, that person will go back to their neutral corner. Now, again, it's a spar here in a back garden, but they've got a referee of sorts, they've got a ring of sorts. But what Jake does, and you'll see the distance here, is Jake doesn't just, you know, mock him or lean over him and shout him. He physically walks across to Joe. He covers that distance. This is intentional, is my point here. This is a thought-out process. Yeah, it's not just like, stay down or whatever, you know, that sort of fit of rage. He walks across to him. And then the second part is the step over. The domination, yeah, the perverted domination, to be technically correct. There is no need for Jake to step over him like that. There is no need to Jake for walk to him like that. None at all, or none at all, other than a perverse need for domination. And that's what we get here. It's like a dog weighing against a tree. I am marking my, like, I have dominated you. And Jake, because he's a high control individual, that's what I've said before in numerous videos, okay? And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm not saying there's anything right with that. It's just fact. He likes to be in control, right? That gives him that perverse sense of arousal, being in control of that particular moment. Doesn't care about Joe's feelings. Doesn't, you know, want to wait for him to get up. It's all about Jake at the moment. So there we've got the lack of empathy. There we've got the not caring about anybody else's feelings. That step over, that domination. Like, I am looking down on you. It's a really powerful example of how much Jake Paul doesn't care about other people. How much he doesn't care. I want to make that clear. And then we've got the sort of backup where when Logan is fighting KSI, Joe Weller and Jake come together. They're having an interview with Radio Raheem. And Joe is trying to ask what I think is a very simple question. It's like, we both agreed, you know, we'd come across, we'd do the fight, you know, we'd make a video out of it, and then it seems to be the narrative was we'll post it together. And then when you listen to Jake, what Jake says, Jake's obviously posted it before Joe. So there's Joe, there's Radio Raheem, and then there's Jake as well. And Joe's asking that sensible question, and Jake does not like that. Okay, Jake doesn't like it. And the first thing he gives out is that, you know, like, I don't care. Why would I care? I didn't know you.
Because I don't know you, and I don't care.
The lack of empathy for others, definitely that sociopathic tendency. And it's the way that he said it, and I want to give that comparison, because Joe can't get it, and he said, okay, like, we both agreed to do that, therefore I wouldn't have done it before you because there was a gentleman's agreement in place. What I'm doing is I'm comparing the empathic levels here. Joe's got empathy. Jake, he almost looks confused. Well, why are you confused that I posted about you? I don't care about you. I didn't know you. I'm giving you a comparison that Joe's asking the question because Joe has a natural level of empathy. Jake is totally confused, and the answer that he gives is exactly what he means. I don't care about you.
Where I'm from, if you, like, man to man say, I'm going to do this, like, you do it.
Yeah, but also, like, I don't, like, at that time, it's like I didn't have respect for you.
Why?
Because I don't know you, and I don't care. Because I don't know you, and I don't care.
And then further in that interview, Joe's trying to explain why he's asking the question. And Jake is doing what Jake does. He mocks people, he belittles people, he tries to take advantage of people again. That sociopathic type tendency is coming in again. He done it with Ben Askren. When Ben Askren was stuttering, oh, Ben, you've got yellow teeth. Ben, nobody likes you. Ben, you're stuttering. Ben, say something funny so we can all laugh again. He tries to belittle people, he tries to mock people. Okay, we'll come back to that in a second. But Joe's asking a question, and what Joe's doing is Joe is taking Jake out of his comfort zone. Jake is not in control of the situation, because effectively the reason why Jake is not in control of the situation is because Jake did say to Joe, yes, we'd posted together, therefore Jake knows that he has done something wrong. That's why he's on the back foot, which is why Jake doesn't give an answer. What he tries to do is start mocking Joe.
Stupid. And
Nah,
you're
bro,
gonna be
no,
like,
no,
yo,
no.
like, you were disrespecting me, bro.
No, bro,
It's
no.
a YouTube video, and
Yeah.
like I posted it like a couple hours before you. Like, get the over it.
Yeah.
This isn't 7th grade.
Okay.
Like, I posted a YouTube video a couple hours before you. Oh, you disrespect me, brother.
That lack of empathy, that lack of feeling, that lack of ownership, that lack of responsibility, that is screaming sociopathic tendencies. Again, just reflect on the above traits that I mentioned before and see them shining, screaming, blasting out of Jake Paul here. Biology doesn't lie. I can't make this up. Also, lack of control. When Logan lost the fight to KSI, they went backstage. There was Logan, there was Shannon Briggs, there was Mike, there was Jake himself. And what you heard Jake say, he was frustrated. You could see the anger there. And he's mentioned in his own video that he doesn't like losing at anything. Okay, he doesn't like losing at anything. Again, that could be advantageous in a competitive environment. But you see the flushed cheeks. He even admits that he took Logan's loss worse than Logan. And he says, I don't know why.
For me to see him lose, it just sucked. And I was the same way in high school. When we would have wrestling matches, I would get more nervous for his wrestling matches versus mine. I don't know why that is, but
Well, I can tell you why, Jake. It's because you're a sociopath. You're a narcissistic, high-control individual. You don't like anything impacting you in a negative way. To the fact that Logan's your brother and he's lost was enough to set your limbic system off, the amygdala, the adrenal, the cortisol production. That's why, okay, that is exactly why, because you're a narcissistic, high-control individual with a lot of sociopathic tendencies. That's why it is. Believe Bruce has just answered the question for you. And again, we've got an example when Jake was fighting Anish Gibb. When Ali and him come together, Jake needed to take control. He come together with some like Katniss Everdeen type stuff. Yeah, I'm not sure what he was doing with the bow and arrow, or whether he thought he was Conor McGregor. But Ali was standing there. Jake needed to take control, that individual zone of optimum function, that eyes off this sweet spot. Yeah, Jake is in his prime when he is in control. Boom, he then pushes Ali. Again, this is just another show of Jake Paul needing the desire, needing the attention, craving it, all right? It's not a want, it's a need. I need this rather than want this. And then we've got Ben Askren as well. Again, these sociopathic tendencies are coming through. We know from the crying, okay, even though he was probably crying for himself, being out of control, in relation to when Logan lost from KSI. So there is some emotion there. This is the point where you're looking between a psychopath and a sociopath, okay? There is some emotion there. Whether he's crying for himself or whether he's crying for Logan, okay, it's obviously debatable. But there was some emotion there. And then what you got with Ben Askren, again, I've done a video, I'll put the link below, is that when Ben, because Ben is quite a funny guy, he's known in the MMA community for being a funny guy. And when he puts Jake on the back foot, Jake tries to belittle him, he tries to crush him, he tries to destroy him, he tries to take his masculinity away. He does not like being pushed. So he thrives when he is in control. Absolutely thrives, but then he dives when he's not. In fact, I would say he dies when he's not in control. He does not know how to handle it. Now, this is the important part right here. Okay, right here. When you look at all this, all these tendencies, okay, the psychopathic tendencies, the sociopathic tendencies, you have to be fair and balanced to say, actually, psychopathic, we could probably push that away. Yes, there's a couple there, but not enough traits are present to say, yes, someone's definitely a psycho. It's a strong label, all right? It's a strong label. Whether you come to the sociopathic side, I believe there is more than enough evidence there to prove, or at least to strongly suggest that Jake Paul definitely falls in that criteria. Now, when it comes to the fight with Ben Askren, how will this play out? Okay, how will this play out? And it's all about how you want to be perceived, all right? It's all about how Jake Paul wants to be perceived, how Jake Paul wants to present himself. On that note, do you like my ties here? The guys from the tie room have sent me to try and present myself a little bit better. Yeah, rate my tie in the comments below. All right, if you're interested in ties or bow ties or anything, I'll leave a link for the guys' tie room. Thank you very much. But it's about that presentation. It's about what Jake Paul wants to present. All right, is bringing that to the table. That sociopathic need to be desired, to be adored. It actually could work in his favor in one example, and it may not in the other. So because he's so committed, because he's got that lack of empathy, I've said on a number of occasions, he seems to be what I would class as ice cold when he gets in the ring. Okay, ice cold when he gets in the ring. Because there's that lack of emotion there, that probably allows him to perform on the big stage. It's been helpful with the people we've fought so far. On the other hand, you've got Ben Askren. Ben Askren has also been conditioned to a further extent to performing on the big stage. So Jake doesn't really have that advantage against Ben Askren. But what does have it is that if Ben can take control, if Ben can see out those first few rounds, Jake's control will be taken from him. Yes, he's done well in sparring, he will have prepared, etc., etc. But this is the real deal. The world is watching, okay? This is Jake's environment, is my point here. So with that said, if Ben can turn those tables, can stay the distance in order that he starts to take control from Jake Paul, that's when it's going to get really interesting. And that's where we're going to see how Jake Paul, on a global stage with millions of people watching, handles it when the tide starts to turn against him. Can I think Jake Paul stopped Ben Askren? I do. I absolutely do. I really believe that Jake Paul, Jake Paul, again, I said in the previous video, he's not a knockout artist. He hasn't got one concussive punch and that's it. He hits people a number of times and then they either go down or the fight gets stopped. My only concern with Ben Askren is that the footage he has released, he's not a great boxer, all right? That's it. He's not a great boxer. He tends, on the boxing that I have seen, to sort of do a 1-2, but then he does that to set up the single leg takedown, the double leg. You know, he's trying to close the distance in MMA to do that. So if Jake keeps hitting him and Ben hasn't got a response, I don't know how long Ben could withstand that. However, if Ben is a better boxer, or he has just got a nuclear chin, all right, when it comes to fist hitting it, and Jake can't do anything with him. And it's a bit like Roberto Duran versus Sugar Ray Leonard. Okay, we always focus on the fist, but not for the mind. Sugar Ray Leonard beat, dismantled, destroyed Roberto Duran, not because he was the better fighter, but because he embarrassed him. He took away his masculinity. He was mocking him inside the ring. Now, if you were to ask me, as someone who specialises in performance psychology, is that's what I think Ben Askren should do to Jake Paul. I think Ben Askren should mock him, should embarrass him, should ridicule him, do everything to turn the tide, actually get the audience laughing at Jake. That would be a huge enabler for getting Jake Paul outside his sweet spot, outside his individual zone of optimum function. And when people aren't performing, that's where Ben Askren gets the win. I think personally that's where Ben, with his limited boxing skills, stands the best chance of winning Jake Paul. And again, biology doesn't lie, psychology doesn't lie. Jake Paul is a high control individual. Take that control away from him, expose him who he is, then we've got the win. That said, I do believe that Jake Paul can also stop Ben Askren. I really do believe that, especially in the early rounds. And that's why it makes it such an exciting fight. So hope you've enjoyed the psychology that I've presented here. Hope you've enjoyed the links, the sociopathic tendencies that I do believe has existed within Jake Paul. If you're interested in learning more about this, as a free resource, believeinbruce.com. I'll put a link in the description. Head across there if you're interested in improving yourself, helping you be more in control of how you think, feel and perform. But more important than any of this, believe in Bruce. Please remember to be kind to yourselves and each other.